Welcome to The Explainer. So we're all using AI tools these days, right? And we've all felt that spark of frustration when they just don't get it. You ask for one thing and you get something completely different. But what if the problem isn't really the AI? What if it's how we're talking to it?
You know, there's this huge debate happening online right now. Is the whole complex art of prompt engineering already a thing of the past? Some people say the models are so powerful now you don't need any special skills, but others argue it's more important than ever. So what's the real story here?
Okay, let's start with a feeling I know we've all had. You ask the AI a question, and what you get back is useless, generic, or sometimes just flat out wrong. We've all been there.
And that feeling, it's just captured perfectly by this comment from a frustrated Reddit user. It's a universal experience. But why? Why does it happen so often? Why does it feel like the AI is just completely ignoring what you asked for?
Well, a lot of the time it just comes down to this. Vague inputs are going to give you vague outputs. I mean, if you ask for something about cybersecurity, you're basically asking for a generic high school level essay. But look at the difference when you tell it to act as a specialist and give it a clear goal. That specificity, that's the first key.
So here's the first big level up in talking to an AI. You have to stop just asking it questions and start giving it a job to do, a role to play.
In fact, the experts, the people who do this for a living, they've pretty much landed on a simple but really powerful four-part structure. First, you assign a role. Then you get super specific with your instructions. After that, you can even give it a few examples to show it what you want. And finally, you tell it the exact format for the output.
And check this out. It's a perfect example of a professional-grade prompt. Even if you don't speak Spanish, you can see the pillars right there. It tells the AI to act as a scriptwriter. It gives it a very specific task, make conversational scripts, and it defines the tone, professional and tailored. See? There's very little room for the AI to get it wrong.
But okay, what about really complex problems? For those, just giving good instructions isn't enough. We have to actually guide the AI's thinking process. And this is where things get really fascinating.
The first huge breakthrough in this area came from Google researchers. It's a technique called chain of thought, or COT for short. And the idea is actually pretty simple, but also kind of profound. You don't just ask the AI for the answer, you ask it to show you the step-by-step reasoning it used to get there. Think about it like a math problem from school. Remember when the teacher would always say, "Show your work"? If you just ask the AI for the final number, it might make a small mistake. But if you tell it to think step by step, you force it to lay out its logic, and that dramatically cuts down on errors.
And the results? I mean, they speak for themselves. On a really important math benchmark, just adding that simple phrase, think step by step, more than doubled the model's performance. Then a follow-up technique called self-consistency, where the AI basically double-checks its own work, boosted accuracy by another almost 18%. Just incredible.
But of course, a simple, straight line of thought is just the beginning. Researchers figured out pretty quickly that human brains don't always work like that. We branch out, we connect different ideas. So, to solve more complex problems, they needed to prompt the AI to reason in more sophisticated ways. This table really shows you how fast things evolved. We started with the simple linear chain of thought, but then came tree of thoughts, which is more like brainstorming. Then graph of thoughts, which can weave different ideas together, and even skeleton of thought, which is all about speed. Each one of these structures gives us a new tool to help the AI tackle different kinds of challenges. Let's dig into tree of thoughts, or TOT. This basically lets the AI brainstorm. It can explore a bunch of different paths, judge whether they're working, and if it hits a dead end, it just backs up and tries another way. It's fantastic for exploratory problems, and for something like solving tricky word puzzles, it turned out to be 4 times more effective than just a simple chain of thought. Then you have graph of thoughts, which takes it another step. Instead of just exploring separate branches, it lets the AI merge different ideas, weaving them together into this stronger network of thoughts. This is incredibly powerful for any task that requires combining different concepts, and it improves sorting performance by over 60% compared to tree of thoughts, and it did it more efficiently. And finally, what if you just need raw speed? That's where skeleton of thought, or SOT, comes in. It mimics how you might write a long paper. First, it generates a basic outline, the skeleton. Then, and this is the really cool part, it fleshes out all the different sections at the same time, in parallel. For long, structured answers, this thing can be almost 2.7 times faster.
Which brings us all the way back to that great debate we started with. If we have all these incredibly powerful techniques, why are some people online saying that prompt engineering is overrated or maybe even dead? Is it really just that the AIs are getting so smart that they don't need our help anymore? Is the skill obsolete? Well, not quite. The reality is a little more complicated than that.
1 million. This number right here, this is the real game changer. Models like Google's Gemini now have what's called a context window of up to 1 million tokens. To put that in perspective, that's around 700,000 words. They can basically read an entire book, say The Great Gatsby, 7 times over in a single prompt.
So this is the crucial point. The skill hasn't died. It's evolved. It's less about being a wizard who crafts the perfect, intricate magic spell for an AI with a tiny memory. And it's more about being a great librarian, a context engineer, who gathers the best information, organizes it, and hands the AI the right set of books to think with.
And all of this leads to the final takeaway here. It's about your new superpower in this age of AI. And it's probably not what you think it is.
See, the ultimate skill isn't memorizing 100 different prompt hacks. The real skill is learning to think like a designer. To ask, how do I break this problem down? What information does the AI need to succeed? What's the best thought process for this task? You stop being a user giving orders and become a collaborator who guides a partner.
In fact, a research paper on this topic just sums it up perfectly. It says the role is going to evolve from prompt crafting into the design of interaction systems. You're not just writing a sentence anymore. You are becoming an architect of the AI's thought process.
And that shift in how you see it, that is everything. That's what separates the frustrated user from the person who can truly unlock the incredible power of this technology.